Good afternoon, and welcome to Federal Conferences, The Art of the Possible. Today in podcast 5, taking your event virtual, technology versus production. There are a lot of elements in there that planners today are struggling with, and so hopefully today our takeaways will help planners as they move forward and we work together, make good decisions on if they need a full production company or maybe just a technology. We're also going to explore some other data points that will be helpful as you kind of understand your registration processes. So without any further ado, because we have a lot of information to cover today, I'd like to introduce our panel for today, which is going to be the first one from Cvent, which is going to be Alyssa Peltier. And welcome to the stage, Alyssa.
Hey guys, how's everybody doing?
Excellent. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, just a little bit about me. I am the senior manager of one of the newest teams here at Cvent, our event marketing team. We're responsible for the event marketing strategy, audience generation, event engagement scoring, all of that good stuff, and then working up with our follow-up campaigns. And we really focus on a lot of our top tier events. One of our big ones is Cvent Connect, which we've just actually pivoted to virtual this past Friday.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty big news. So thanks for sharing that. I think maybe first here, I don't know, maybe others already know about it, but wow, that's big news. Super excited to hear that. Although I do miss everyone, seeing everyone at Cvent.
We do too. Nothing can replace the power of the in-person event experience.
Absolutely. Well, I'd like to also introduce one of our other panelists, which is going to be Paulina Curto, and she is also with Cvent. Welcome to the stage.
Hi, Phil. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Do you mind sharing a little bit about your background?
Sure. So I've been in the meetings and events industry for just over 10 years now. Come from a background with planning for associations, for small trade associations, and I've been with Cvent for 6 years, currently managing our marquee events program, which includes our 2 annual user conferences, along with some of our high-touch luxury programs and VIP incentive programs. So meetings and events is something that's very near and dear to my heart.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so you're sort of our technology team, and that's only half the equation for today. So the other half of our panel today is the production. So I'd like to welcome to the stage Patrick Han with Manor Productions.
Hi, thanks for having me, Phil.
Of course. Patrick, do you mind sharing a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is Patrick Han. I'm COO and co-founder of Manor Production. We're a full-service production, AV, and creative company. I've been in this event industry for about 20 years, and I'm second generation. We're a rapid growing company where we do production for hundreds of thousands of people a year. So thank you for having me, and I look forward to talking today.
Excellent. Excellent. Thanks, Patrick. I appreciate that. So since we have so much to cover this afternoon in our 20 to 30 minute period, let's just jump right in. Alyssa, let's start with you. With your background and experience, what would be sort of your first step in a process of developing sort of a needs virtual event sort of thing? What does that look like to you?
Yeah, I think first it's really important to take a step back and realize that not all events are created equal, and thus your pivot to virtual in terms of your scope or your technology required might look vastly different across your complete portfolio of events. So your first task really is to look at your existing event objectives and determine, which ones even make sense or could accomplish similar goals in the virtual space. Was the primary goal engagement, attendee networking, revenue generation, or fundraising? Start to align technologies and hosting platforms that might make sense for those unique objectives. So you maintain your event integrity and you become even more laser focused in your mission, essentially. And, we've been hearing a lot about Zoom lately, which is, really great technology for the face-to-face connectivity, but maybe it doesn't serve the needs of your attendees or your event goals when it comes to, say, like a training event, which might be better served in a more like traditional learning-based webinar platform like WebEx or On24. But so as you look to kind of pivot those programs that make sense for you, what we have really found that's helpful is to kind of classify your events into a tiering system of like a 1, 2, 3, with your tier 3 events being your least complex, your lowest level of effort, often repeatable in nature, but that require less connected technologies, and they're just easier and more capable of getting up and out the door quickly and at a rapid pace. But then moving upwards, your tier 1s, for example, are your highly complex, your multi-day, multi-session, that require more planning, more strategic conversations. And as you look to identify elements of the program that should be moved to a virtual environment, you can start assessing your higher level of technology requirements that might serve those needs. And often this might require a little bit more of an up-leveled production and live streaming services, which I think we're going to dive into a little bit more today. So I don't want to steal that thunder.
Perfect. Wow, that's a lot to unpack just in the first question. So
sorry.
I'm looking forward to hearing the rest of it. No, it's great. It's great information, good information to unpack. But I'm going to talk to the person who actually is sort of the rubber in the road, right? Paulina, you're the planner here. You make it happen. You deal with all of those crazy salespeople all the time. Can you tell me a little bit about how has your role changed over the past months?
Acclimating to this new event landscape, it's been a bit of a roller coaster ride. And I've been really fortunate that Alyssa and I have had the opportunity to partner really deeply on how our pivot, what it's like, what it looks like, and shaping the strategy. I honestly would say my role hasn't changed. It's just truly evolved, and I'm leaning into a new set of skill sets that I've kind of always had, in the back pocket. And I've been noodling on the idea of, what does a virtual event RFP look like? And Alyssa kind of touched on this, right? You need to understand sort of your scope and the types of events that you're even contemplating pivoting. So once you've done that, understanding, the service providers, your vendors, who to source and reach out to bring those events to life in the virtual space. So I would say there's a lot of event planning 101 that we all use on a daily basis for a traditional in-person event that can be leveraged and transferred to this virtual experience. The big thing is you can't be overwhelmed by all of the unknown. You kind of just have to embrace it. And Alyssa and I have really, tuned into there's creativity and chaos and just embracing it. And I think the one thing that I've seen is you can't be afraid to make mistakes. We're all kind of just going with it and trying to find the right place for these different programs. And so I would just say go for it. The role doesn't change, it just evolves, and it's going to continue to evolve as we're challenged with new experiences.
Wow. So chaos, hospitality industry meetings? No, that's not possible.
Business as usual, right?
That's right. That's right. It's even easier because it's virtual, right? So taking those sort of two things and putting them together, I think one of the things that tends to come to mind is, we had a lot of Zoom bombing and sort of those different things occurring. Patrick, let me ask you a question in regards to like security. What does that mean from like, can a production company help that, or how does that work? Can you share a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So what you want to do is talk to your production company and see the best option, whether it's just a Zoom meeting or if you need to kind of upgrade and use a dedicated server. So the advantages of having a dedicated server is there's less public traffic, meaning if you're streaming to YouTube versus a dedicated server that the production company would have, the chances of your meeting crashing goes down immensely. Especially this is for where you have attendees of 300 or more viewing, because that's a lot more bandwidth for Zoom and other programs that would potentially could crash. And another great thing too is with security, and you use a third-party platform, you can have the users create their own passcodes. So each individual signs in, and it's more secure, like Zoom bombing. That prevents that from happening, especially if you get meetings that have over 1,000 people that are viewing this. You only have the presenters signing into the stream, kind of like what we're doing, but on the other end, they're signing into another platform. So on top of that, by having another platform like with a dedicated server, it helps with analytics. So when you're done with the meeting, you can go back and view what attendee has viewed, what meeting, and for how long. So that can really help structure the following meeting. So you have 3 months from now or 6 months from now, because this probably isn't going away anytime soon, and this will be adopted in the industry. So this really helps tailor your meeting to what you want it to be, especially after the first meeting, by using the security features and with the analytics. So that's what I would recommend. So talk to your production company, and they can really tell you how to go at it and what's the best cost-effective option for you.
Wow. Okay. So to be honest, I've been doing this a long time, and I would have never thought production companies had to deal with security stuff. So that's pretty crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So here's another question for you. Maybe, I don't know, Alyssa or Paulina, what does it really mean from a value of a virtual event versus an in-person event? Can you talk a little bit about that? What does that mean? What does that look like?
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in here. So I think what we're seeing is that production value is really, really in play right now. And we kind of have to change our mindset as to what works. The in-person event really lends itself to a theatrical experience. You have these massive general session stages, right? With super, intense LED screens and really, really sophisticated lighting. And I think that doesn't translate to, our small computer screens that we're looking at each other on now. We really need to dive into really more of a TV production perspective, bringing that intimate, really engaging, talk show format, live studio audience kind of experience to the event experience. I think this is where the opportunity for planners like myself and Patrick to really partner and understand the best practices. We're not going to just do the straight angle of a general session and capture the speaker kind of gliding across the stage. No. We're going to have to really dive into unique camera angles that we see producers, television producers leaning on. So to me, I think production value has never been more important, and understanding, keep in mind, what is the goal of the event? Is it a training experience? Because then you might not need to leverage production as much. But if you're doing a general session with breakouts, or perhaps it's even a social, a networking meetup, you're going to really have to communicate that to your AV providers and make sure that you guys are aligned on expectations.
Gotcha. Understood. And Patrick, what about you? I mean, so from your perspective as the production person here on the panel, what does that mean? How do you fit all that into that?
So a good way to think about it is try to picture a meeting. Do you want it simple, kind of like a podcast, or do you want a more immense user experience? So by using a dedicated server that has their own platform, the production company can create its own landing page, and by creating its own landing page, you can really create the flow of the show. So the landing page can almost be like your meeting agenda, where you have your breakouts in one area, you have your general session in another area. You can click on that link and it opens up the general session area. It really helps with the whole flow. And then you can also add in features such as chat, polling, videos, and other things like that, where you can combine the live aspect like this, but then also have pre-recorded content, where if you have a studio, you can actually have pre-recorded videos, speakers from other locations that they couldn't be present. You pre-record that and you can mix the whole flow into it. And that's when the moderator comes in, and it can really help with the whole flow of the meeting. So first, take the building blocks of how you want to structure your meeting. Do you want it more relaxed, or do you want to build this up into a meeting that feels like you're almost there, where you can interact, and where it's kind of like watching Ellen DeGeneres' show, where you can actually talk and ask questions and feel a part of it. So it can be, in some ways, even though it's not as intimate, it can be by the way that you structure it. And the really important thing is ask about the landing page and look at different production companies and see how they set that up, and additional features that that they might have that they're not thinking about telling you, and just say, hey, I would like to do this, and they can actually design your page for you and add things in that you wouldn't think exist. So that would be my advice.
Gotcha. I appreciate that. It's interesting, right? So as we all sort of sit and watch so many different programs that takes on it, right? Because like a laptop or a mobile device versus a camera at a different angle can certainly make the difference. I will say, Patrick, I think you were reading my mind because you kind of segue into the next question. So I don't know if you were cheating or not, but what would you suggest on increasing engagement during virtual events? Like, how does that work? So I think you were cheating, Patrick, but I'll let you off the hook on this one. I don't know, Alyssa, what do you want to start that out?
Yeah, I mean, I can comment on that. I think something that I've been really keen on is not thinking your events are a one-to-one relationship from an in-person to a virtual event experience. So don't take exactly what you had and try to throw it up on a desktop computer and say, attend our event, it's exactly the same. The attention spans are different when you're talking about competing priorities within the household right now, or even within the office environment when we start to transition back. So really what we're seeing is a lot of trends that are creating shortened programs. So what might have been a 2-day or a 3-day event is now going to be a 1-day or a 2-day event, but with shorter kind of TED Talk type formats, rapid fire content that's a little bit more consumable and integrates with your day-to-day work that's, also needs to get done at the same time. The luxury of being an in-person event is that you have a captivated location and a captivated audience, but we don't have that within, all the competing priorities that are happening on the internet. So you have to make your content incredibly, incredibly compelling and also suit the needs of the attendee, not just suit the needs of what had previously worked for the in-person event.
Patrick, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, well, before we go forward, just a general question. What, in regards to virtual and engagement and that sort of thing, what kind of numbers? Like, so is there a number that we're seeing? Are you seeing trends as far as registration? Are they declining? Are they increasing? Like, I don't know. I'm probably screwing up the whole interview here, but I want to throw that out there. It just popped into my head.
Sure. So you're talking about how many people are actually attending these virtual meetings? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, versus a traditional program.
Sure. So in some ways, the numbers have gone down. In other ways, they've gone up because it's a new dynamic of people. What we see too is it's a younger crowd that necessarily wouldn't be able to afford to fly out to a meeting that can actually attend and click on and actually view the program from their home. So in some ways, it will be more engaging and it'll have a broader aspect of attendees that can actually be a part of a meeting versus more higher level attendees or people, depending on if it's corporate or association, that would actually be attending the meeting. So it really allows you could say a synergy between the whole company. So or association where more people can actually attend and view a program.
And I can quickly add color there too. Some of the numbers that we're seeing, I mean, that's what Cvent does, registration processing and providing. And truthfully, that's what my background is too, is driving those registration numbers up. So trends in the space, we're seeing anywhere from 3 to 5 times the increase the number of attendees that are registering for these virtual events. But that being said, those registrations aren't necessarily created equal. The intensity of that engagement is less so. Like I said, you've got competing priorities. So your level of commitment when you're registering for an in-person event is a little bit more engaged than what you might expect in your virtual event space. So again, all of those types of polling, interactive elements that you can throw into your virtual experience will help drive the value that you're going to receive as the event producer, the event planner, or the event marketer for your organization to prove that your virtual event actually worked and that, yes, all of those eyeballs that actually came to your event meant something to you as well. And I think, just in terms of measuring and capturing and proving that value, our metrics for virtual have not really changed all that much. We still are looking at registration tracking with a registration provider, attendance check-ins or logins, if you will, kind of the simpatico metric. The engagement metrics, like how long somebody stayed and listened to a virtual session, are all really fundamental elements of event technology, whether you're in the in-person space or in the virtual space. So, as you're assessing providers, just make sure that you understand their full capabilities and be really focused on what you're looking to get out of them so that you can compare your virtual event success with your in-person event successes as well.
So as we hit our sort of 20-minute point, I do have one last question. I think we may have some viewer questions as well. But what do you think the biggest opportunity is in this new sort of realm of virtual hybrid? What does it look like from a creativity and innovation? What does that look like moving forward, right? Not just today where we're like in the dust and haze of it all, but what does it look like moving forward? I don't know whoever wants to start on that one.
I can jump in, unless Patrick, I couldn't tell if you were ready to jump in.
Oh, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I think, I'm finding a lot of creativity in the nostalgia of the in-person experience. I'm currently putting together a run of show for our, annual user conference. And I'm finding myself, laughing, right before you have a countdown to a general session. For the in-person event, you would typically see like a countdown clock and maybe have some really high energy music playing, right? And in my mind, I'm like, well, that's not going to translate great to someone's home screen on their laptop, just the numbers counting down. So I'm thinking maybe there's some voice of God and it's, ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats and modify your thermostats because we're unable to change the temperature for you. And so I think there's some fun ways that you can bring the nostalgia of the in-person event to a virtual experience. I think that will translate nicely. There are also some benefits that you can kind of lean on, food and beverage. It's essentially taken out of the equation as of right now. And so dietary restrictions, it's kind of an even playing field for experience. People who have typically gone to an event and maybe had heightened anxiety because they're thinking, oh, I have to pack my own lunch, or, I have to make sure I have a good seat because, I need to have a better view for the content on the screen. So I think it's definitely leveling the playing field, which allows for more people to experience it. And we can get creative with ways to further engage our attendees in this more intimate environment. So I would say lean into the nostalgia of the in-person event and try to evolve it so that it lends itself to a fun, creative experience.
Alyssa, what about you?
Yeah, I think Patrick kind of alluded to this earlier, but I think what I'm really excited to see is now our opportunity more than ever to become inclusive to our audiences from an even broader and diverse background. Of course, with in-person events, there are obvious barriers to get to the event location. Accessibility is not always easy for all. And it's just what a special time for us to be able to involve and embrace more members of our, invite pool than ever before. I just think that's really like a special moment that we can lean into. That's like, yes, we may have lost that in-person connectivity, but we're actually connecting our brands, our mission, our goals with even more individuals than what was previously. So it's something, I've had my status on my away message has been make lemonade out of lemons for the past 4 weeks. And I think, you got to find those silver lining moments in all of this like doom and gloom, or what has perceivably been doom and gloom, because there's some little shiny diamonds or golden nuggets to pick up, if you will. And that's really great opportunity. I know even after we just pivoted our virtual conference, we had our own Cventer population coming to us asking, this will be the first time that I can experience Cvent Connect. Like, where do I register? So even internally, like we're seeing that, culture, embracing of our own brand being extended within our own internal culture. So there's a lot of opportunity there. And I think that we should pick up on some of the positive moments in addition to, the strife that we've all been going through as well.
I'm sorry. I feel compelled. Like, I'm so thankful you brought that up because I agree with you 100%. I think, so many people in our industry and in the world are left out of these monumental moments, right? And now we have an opportunity to bring them in and to be able to share that life experience with them when they haven't been able to do that in the past.
Absolutely. And I find it poignant that I felt like a trending topic that we were seeing a lot in the industry last year in our in-person events. I know it was huge at IMEX. We talked a lot about it at our own our conference was about diversity and inclusion. And it's like the world is speaking back to us, and giving us this opportunity to showcase what it feels like to have a fully inclusive event in the virtual space. So embrace that.
Yeah, very, very true. Very true. And you're right. Actually, I was going to be one of your panelists for talking about diversity in the meeting. So
there you go.
I will miss that. But so Patrick, I didn't think I was going to leave you out. Can you kind of wrap up that question quickly for
sure.
us?
I mean, both of you hit the nail on the head. Those were some of my thoughts. Another thought too, which is kind of outside the box, is what are the hotels going to be doing? How are they going to structure minimums? And obviously F&B, that's going to go down because the amount of attendees are going to be virtual. Where the internet charge is going to be, if you want to do a actual virtual studio, but you want high-speed internet with your team there, along with the moderator and producer and team, what are those charges going to look like? How is that going to go moving forward? So that's the little tidbit that I'd add on to everything that was said. But I can see some changes happening in that area drastically if this keeps going on for the time being.
So I do have one question that came up from an audience participant in engagement. They wanted to know, what is the impact in regards to sponsorships and exhibitors? What are you seeing on that front? And it's open to anybody.
Yeah, I mean, I'm, already seeing a whole new universe of potential sponsors in the virtual space that weren't necessarily as, front and center for the in-person experience. And I think being open to new providers, kind of leaning into other departments of your organization to see how they leverage their sponsorships as well, if there are sponsorship tactics in their digital efforts. But I think, there's a variety of sponsorship opportunities, whether it's branding, it's a quick interstitial commercial before your programming begins, or just following your programming. It's being able to go live on multiple platforms and giving them plugs on a LinkedIn or a Facebook Live. And so leveraging the tech I've seen as being a huge resource. And I think we're going to see a ton of growth in terms of the more creative sponsorship opportunities out there for sure.
Yeah, and just to add on that, it's an incredibly visual medium in general. So the sponsorship opportunities are limitless. Even in this portal that we're using right now, there's tons of opportunities that I'm noting as I'm looking through it. So, don't become overwhelmed by those things. Like start to build those packages from the ground up, just like you would do with your in-person event. Think about where the maximum eyeball is going to be, where you can give that value back to your sponsors, exhibitors, or whatever you might have. But there are a lot of opportunities that are waiting to be leveraged in this space.
Yeah, and to add on, if you have your own custom landing page, you can create the borders with your platinum sponsors. For breakout meetings, you can have an introduction video, where for breakouts, it's also great to do pre-recorded. So you can actually embed the sponsorship advertisement or video before the speaker presents. So there's a lot of ways that you can design within a landing page of how you want things to be. You can have a totally dedicated area for sponsors. You can have a Q&A area for it where your sponsors are on there and they're answering your attendee questions. So you can really build this. Think of being in person and wanting to talk to people and how you're going to incorporate that into your landing page. And it is limitless with what you can do. It's just you're looking at a screen and you're not in a hotel or a convention center. So.
Yeah. You mean no longer having the card key in your pocket?
Yeah.
With the logo on it. So I want to say thank you. We were hitting at that 30-minute mark, and I want to make sure everyone does go and have their great lunch, whatever those dietary restrictions could be. But again, thank you all to today's discussion. Greatly appreciated. Amazing tips to help individuals. And I would say stay tuned to next week and our 6th episode of Art of the Possible. We're out Visit Alexandria, talking live about going from marquee programs to regional programs. So again, thank you so much. We look forward to seeing you next time.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank
for having me.
you.